Ooh.
Okay, so I am very excited to have you all here for our learning table today. We always have an amazing woman, and today's woman absolutely ticks a million of those boxes. So let me introduce Heidi to you because I know a lot of you are from Melbourne, so might not know Heidi. Heidi is a big, big name over in Perth, and she's now moving to dominate the East Coast and then the rest of the world. Heidi is a keynote speaker, PR coach, and publicist, body positivity advocate, host of the Shit Show Live Stories. And for any of you that are in near me, she's at the Sun Theatre on October 25th. So we've all got to go as a posse. She's also an ex-radio host who used to do the breakfast show in Perth. Big Brother 2013. She was one of the contestants. And she's an all-round friggin' amazing woman. So on that note, Heidi, over to you, honey.
Oh, thanks, Jules. Thank you so much for having me. And massive shout out to Naomi, who actually introduced us, I think
Yes.
maybe like 3 years ago. And I know that Naomi was like, I've got to introduce you two. I think you two would get along so well. And then the times that we've caught up, our brains are very similar. We go 100 miles an hour. We're mad. We swear. I'm just trying to check what's in the background. Usually I'm in my office,
The
but here,
kitchen.
guys, this is my current view. Sorry,
Look where
not
she is on the
sorry.
Gold Coast.
But I was like,
Yes.
what have I got over there that could be, incriminating? Nothing. Okay, so let's get into this. I've actually got slides. I was just saying to Jules, my brain just goes all over the place.
I totally understand.
ADHD, ADD brain all the way. So these days I like to keep on track with slides. So, and I'm very much a visual person. I don't know if you've done much work on yourself over the years and realize like how you learn best. And for me, I'm a visual person, which is quite funny coming from breakfast radio because definitely not visuals. Okay, let me just get the chat box up. Okay, so now I can't seem to see the chat box. Oh, now I've lost you guys. Can you
It's
still see
down at the
me?
bottom, and I'll have it open and I'll let you know if anyone does
Wait,
anything if
now
you
I
want.
can't see you guys. Okay.
You found us?
I found you. Okay, so let me go
Woohoo.
back to sharing because I can't let me see. Okay, wait. Can you guys see me? Okay, here we go. All right, participants can now see your screen. Great. Nothing incriminating there. All
Nothing that
right.
we can see. Off you go.
Let's do this, guys. So today we're going to talk about how to pitch with confidence. So I usually stand when I present, so I'm going to be like, woo, in the chair, so excited. So this will be interesting because Jules has got a PR background as well, and I speak a lot from my media experience. So I've worked on both sides. I've worked in PR, actually in an agency in London, but then I've also sat behind a microphone doing breakfast radio for 10 plus years and had people pitch at me. So today I kind of bring those both together, and that's my formula. So, and this is the thing when you learn off different people, sometimes you'll be like, well, did Jules say that? Jules might have said the
Oh,
opposite.
don't worry about that.
No, but the one thing I always like to say is like be open to everything because what Jules says might really work for her and what I say might really work for me. You might put what we both say together that will work for you. So full disclaimer, I'm going to speak from my own experience. Jules gave me a cute little intro before. I'm going to get to you to get to know me a little bit more. My street cred's going to come a little bit later. But I would love for you first, and Jules, because I can't read the chat box, but if you can read that out to me,
Sure.
I would love for two of you, or the top two that come through, what do you think PR is? Because I want to know what your understanding of PR is. I mean, you're in Jules's circle, so I'm assuming that you might have your perspective of PR, but I'm going to teach you my perspective afterwards. So, Jules, what have we got? What is PR?
Okay, girls, come on, bring it on. I'm
Come on,
waiting.
type it, type it. It's so
I
annoying
can
when
go
you do
snap with the
oh
drink bottle
wait, I
too.
think I can get yes, I've got the chat box up. Yay, it worked.
Okay, so Sandra Maguire says promoting yourself and your business.
Yes, love
And
that.
Melissa, so Sandra is a money expert.
Go
Melissa
Sandra. What?
Edibian is the founder of Bondi Chai, and she says creating awareness of our brand and what we do and who we are. Tick, tick,
Yes,
tick,
I
tick,
love
tick
that.
for everything. Katrina says
Katrina.
PR is free mentions from others about you and your business.
Okay, I love this. This is good. So,
And Elizabeth says getting your purpose, authority, face, and message out to your audience.
yes. Okay, so all of the above. is correct. But I want to teach you today how I think about PR that makes it really, really simple, but it also gives you that permission slip, especially for a lot of women who are scared to promote themselves, who are scared to shout about themselves. I want to give you permission today to think about PR as in public relations equals relationships in the public. So that's how I like to think about it. So there's a whole arena of of PR, and then there's all these relationships. So if you get printed in the newspaper, on the other side someone is reading that newspaper, that's the start of a relationship for you. But how did that relationship start? You actually had to build that relationship with the journalist. So it all comes down to relationships, and I really want you to never ever forget that. As soon as people start to think like, oh my god, yeah, it's relationships in the public, it becomes really easy for them to start like pitching themselves, that it's not feels like yucky promo or, the street cred for me that's going to come later, or your street cred. It's just thinking about on the end of every email, on the end of every pitch, it's a relationship. There's a person with a heartbeat. And so I want you to start thinking like that. So as Jules has probably taught you before, it can be paid or it can be free, and free exposure. And I know Jules has come in and presented in my PR club before. There is no better time than now to actually be PRing yourself, because free exposure is available to every single one of you. You think about the thousands of pieces of content that publications are pumping out daily because they want to feed their Facebook posts, they want to feed their Instagram posts, they've got podcasts, they've got video content related now. So journalists are burnt out as well. Like, that's the honest truth. They're not paid enough. Are they, Jules?
Nope.
They've got
Overworked.
editors breathing down their back saying you need 4 pieces of content today. So if you think and give yourself permission and think about the mindset that you have, there is no better time than now for you to start PRing yourself and building those relationships. They actually need you. So never, ever forget that. Even if you don't get a response, even if you get rejected, they still need you. Okay. So the way I do PR is I think of it in 3 categories: thinking outside the box, connections, and as I said, relationships. So thinking outside the box, we take it, I'm not an inside the box thinker. I was boxed in breakfast radio for a very long time. And so for me, when I think about PR, you really want to stand out. You want them to remember you. Like, this is the thing. We want to be unforgettable, as I like to say, memorable as fuck. So how can you start thinking outside the box when you pitch yourself, when you put yourself out there? Then the second thing is connection. So again, remembering there's a person with a heartbeat on the other side when we're building that relationship, whether it's been printed or with a journalist. On the other side, there is always connection. And then, as I've said before, finally, relationships in the public. That's how I want you to think about PR. So 4 ways. The way that I really like to think about this is I kind of put them into buckets. So there's traditional forms of media, radio, TV, newspaper, magazines, then online publications. And I know this is pretty big in the US and it's pretty massive on Mamma Mia. You'll get a lot of guest posts. You might get asked to comment on, certain things. And this can be hugely powerful because of the way that the viral effect of when an online publication is actually shared. Then there's new forms of media. The way I like to think about it: podcasts, collaborations like Jules and I are doing now, collaborations with influencers, social media lives, speaking opportunities, and events. So I like to think of it in 4 different categories. So I've just got a couple of examples up here for you. So a traditional form of media is the front page here with Jasmine Sky. She got in Perth now. Online publication is Maggie Dent sharing Tam's story up here in the corner. New form media, podcast collaborations. Like just me the other day, I was on a podcast in the US. It took me 2 years to get on this podcast, but it all started with a relationship. And so that's what I just really want you to take home today. Speaking opportunities, events, obviously that's another way to PR yourself, which Jules is coming to my shit show live stories. And I actually have an opportunity for people to pitch to the stage. So that's another way to promote yourself and put yourself out there. Okay. So I like to think of it in like 3 different levels as well. Like if you were to think of like a 3-story house, the first kind of level, everyone is at all different levels. And this is where a lot of people get caught up. They go, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to PR myself. Yes, you are. You should have started yesterday. That's the honest truth. I started PRing myself when I started in breakfast radio. Before that, I was working in PR, but the whole time that I was working in breakfast radio, I was PRing myself at different levels. Okay. So PR, it should have happened yesterday if you haven't actually started. The first level, I want you to think about like, so this is for basic 101. You could start thinking about building relationships in the public with people in this arena today. Who could you do a social media live with? Who could you
Me.
collaborate with? Yes,
I
Jules.
do 2 lives a week.
Who could you get a press release out to? Now, the reason why I put press releases on the top is, to be honest, a lot of journalists really want you to target them personally these days. Press releases, great for community news if you want to get an announcement out there, and maybe it's like doesn't feel so personal, so you could start at that first level. The second level is like online commentary, reactive PR, podcasting. And then the third level, guest writing, magazines, like, traditional media where you're going to sit there and really put yourself out there with your thought leadership and opinions. Every single one of you, first, second, third level, you should be going through all of them or at least one of them. Okay. So I like to think of it like a 3-story house, which is how it really lands in my brain. Okay. So I would love to ask you all a question. Who has a feeling that they want to change the world? That your impact, yes, is bigger than your social media. And the reason why I say your social media is because so many of us, especially the women that I work with, are actually really quite comfortable starting to share their message through social media. But as soon as we start to say like, oh, how would it feel telling that on a podcast? How would it feel telling that on a stage? How would it feel telling that in a paper? We start to cock block ourselves. So I'm going to jump into the chat. Has anyone just wants to declare fuck yes, or open your mic up and say yes? Yes, Katrina, if you want to open your mic up, say my impact is bigger than social media. Is she going to do it? This is the start. Yes,
fuck yeah. Social media.
Yes, fuck yeah, yes, Katrina. Because the thing is, when we start to say it, we start to believe it. And I'm going to get into a couple of the things that might actually be stopping you from PRing yourself. I'm going to get in your head. I'm going to talk about the cock blocks. We're allowed to say cock blocks on here, Jules?
You're allowed to say whatever you want, Heidi.
So I like to call them cock blocks. I won't go into why, but back in the dating days when my girlfriends used to hook up with the guys that I wanted to hook up with, I would have called them a cock block. So it's the things that get in your way that stop you from actually PRing yourself. So one of the things you might be thinking is, yeah, I do have a big message. I do have a big mission, but I don't know how to share it. And I don't know what my angle is. Well, I want to introduce you to Jessie. I like to teach in examples because, for me, I want you to start to feel, I want you to be like, fuck yeah, I could be like Jessie. So we really slayed thinking outside the box with her. And Naomi, who's on here today, will know Jessie. She knows her quite well. Jessie actually came to me and she was told by a PR agency not to step into sharing this part of her story. And I straight away was like, what? Why? And they said it's career suicide for you. So she was she worked a lot in confidence and styling and getting women to feel good about themselves through, the way that they dress. And she wanted to run workshops. She actually had an old ex slide into her, she's 10 years since they broke up. He actually called her. I was going to say slide into DMs because that's what we do these days, but he actually called her. And she was like, oh my God, I know that it's him. And 10 years ago, he actually released nudes of me on the internet. And this is what she came to say to me. And I went, holy shit. She was now married. She's got this beautiful business. And she was so scared that this guy was coming back into her life and he was going to take away her power again. And so I said to Jessie, why couldn't we speak about that? And she's like, why couldn't we? I want to own my story. I don't want him to come in and blow up everything that I've got by releasing these nudes again. And so I went back behind the scenes and I started thinking about the PR strategies, how I think outside the box. And I said to Jessie, let's jump on a call. We did a one-on-one call. And I said, how would you feel to release your own nudes? And she was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And so we did it in a really beautiful, classy way. We actually started with her sharing her story on Instagram and she opened up about what she'd been through and in this past relationship. And she said, I'm actually going to take you on the journey with me through this next couple of weeks to her clients who are all about confidence, who are all about feeling good. And she said, I'm going to take you on this journey of me getting my power back. Now, that video went fucking nuts. She had people sliding into her DMs, wanting to share their stories, obviously. The way that we also thought about it for strategy was we wanted to align her with a women's refuge in Perth. So she actually started doing workshops there for them. And then people who booked her to book her services, we actually had money be donated towards this women's refuge, a chosen charity that she wanted to donate around DV. And this was part of her and her PR strategy and really thinking outside the box. From there, we got these amazing nudes like at this boudoir studio, and that was part of the story that we shared as well. And they were really classy, awesome nudes that she was happy to share on the internet that she owned. From there, she was on ABC radio, she was on podcasts, and she also released, which we came out with this outside the box idea, the red carpet of confidence. So this was a place where women could walk the red carpet of confidence in outfits that they didn't feel really happy or confident in. And we started throwing this red carpet out around Perth, and people were randomly walking down it. From there, we launched her workshops, which actually sold out. She took her power back. And this is just an example for you of how to start thinking outside the box and really like owning your message and your impact, because this came back to ultimately like her experience of going through DV and how do you relate that to, confidence and styling. And so there was a lot of strategy and thought that went into this. But the most important part, which is why I love telling stories and doing what I do, and I think Jules is the same, and that's why we're attracted to each other, is that, it was all about her mission and impact, which when she was doing her confidence, styling and all that, she didn't really know how to bring that out until we kind of put a PR strategy in there for her. And, the power of her voice just changed the game for her. So that's one way of you to start thinking like, oh, PR doesn't have to just be a press release. It doesn't have to be about you just jumping on a podcast. It can actually be about like you doing, I would like to call them, that probably a terminology is stunts. Like I did a lot of radio stunts, guerrilla marketing, that kind of thing. But with Jessie, there was so much impact and mission behind it, which is why I wanted to share her story with you. Maybe some of you are thinking, oh, but I'm not confident yet. Like, what am I going to do? I want you to meet Donna. So when I first met Donna, she actually helped me and my son get some sleep when we were in the first few months of parenthood. And I actually got introduced to Donna, and she was so, I don't want to say not confident, but she had that confidence within her. She just didn't know how to share her mission and help families like get better sleep. And so with Donna, we actually did one podcast. And this is why I want to share this story with you. So many of us, we go ahead and we book in 50,000 fucking podcasts. And then we wonder where the clients are. We wonder where the money is. We wonder where, like, who's actually heard our story. Donna went on one podcast, and it was one chosen podcast. It was my podcast with my husband, and it was called First Time Parents. And we actually collaborated in such a beautiful way that she helped us and, me work through my anxiety and get our son to sleep. And then we actually helped her by sharing her method on the podcast, by doing it more like, it wasn't just us sitting down and interviewing her about like, well, how do you get a baby to sleep? And It was more like the power of collaboration. And that's what I really want you to think about. So we did a 2-part episode. We did before baby sleeps and then after baby sleeps. And I documented the whole thing on my Instagram stories, and we shared Donna and we tagged her. And after that, Donna's client numbers doubled and her bookings increased by 200%. And she only went on one podcast. And that was because we really thought about how we wanted to share her and her message. To be honest, she was actually a bit nervous, like, what if I can't get their baby to sleep? What if I can't help the mum with the anxiety? And I said to Donna when we sat down, I said, we will support you and look after you. We're not going to sit here and go like, this is fucked, trying to help baby sleep, blah, 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 all this stuff. I said, let's have an honest conversation, and then let's do the podcast episodes, and then let's document it. And it wasn't just her going out and aligning herself with, like I said, 50 podcasts, hoping and praying that she was going to get clients. It was really an intentional collaboration. And that's what I want you to think about if you're going to PR yourself with a podcast. Think about the intention behind it. Think about how you could really document it without just like, a video on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever it is. How could you actually document the experience from both of your perspectives? And this would work well for if you're a relationship coach, if you're a sleep coach, like so many different things. Could you actually coach the person that you're interviewing? Could you potentially pitch that? That's how I want you to start thinking. It's not just jumping on a podcast and like, sharing your story. There's a real beautiful way in how you could intentionally start putting yourself out there. So that's why I wanted to share Donna's story. I'm not going to worry about Jess's. So I'm going to take a sip of my water. Elizabeth, I'm so glad. My brain goes 100 miles an hour. So I've got to remind myself to breathe and to also drink water to hydrate. Okay, so I want you to all think about, your bigger mission and your bigger impact. And then I want you to close your eyes for a second, okay? I want you to just close your eyes and I want you to picture that you're 30 seconds away. Hey, your eyes are still open there, Alison. I can see you. Okay, so I want you to close your eyes, put your hand on your heart and take 3 deep breaths. And let's come back. One more. Actually, 2 more for me. And I want you to continue to close your eyes. And I want you to think that you're 30 seconds away from speaking on a local radio show. I want you to think about talking on national TV, like the Today Show. I want you to think about that moment where you're being interviewed by one of the best podcasters in the world. And as you pick up that mic or that phone or or you're on TV and they've pressed play, how do you feel in this moment? Are your palms sweating? I know for me, I get a shaky cheeks. Is your voice shaking? Are you shitting yourself with nerves or are you calm? And are you ready to slay the stage or the mic? Because I want to remind you that your first publicist lives in your own head, okay? And the only way for you, and you can come back to me, you can open your eyes. The only way for you to actually start to PR yourself is by rocking the mic with drunk confidence. So that's rocking the phone call with the local radio station. And how we do this is through exposure therapy. This is what I teach people. The only way you're going to get confident to rock that stage, the only way you're going to get confident to do that interview, to send that press release is to fucking do it every day and commit to it, to step into that courage, to actually start putting yourself out there. So that is how I've got to be the person that I am. That is how I'm sitting here in front of you. Every single time I show up, it's courage that builds confidence. And it's all about the first publicist that lives in your own head, okay? So I was going to take you back to Bunbury and I wanted to share with you, what time is it, Jules? What have we got? 24
We've
minutes.
got oodles of time. Don't worry at all. We've got more than an hour.
Amazing. So, Sandra, my camera is frozen. I do have my eyes closed. Okay, lucky for you, Sandra. Okay, so I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back to Bunbury because once we go here, I'm going to start sharing with you. I'm going to start building the blocks to start pitching yourself. But thinking about all those cock blocks that we have and the way that we stop ourselves, I, Heidi Anderson, almost 14 years ago, stepped into the radio studio to do my first breakfast radio job. Do you know how I got good at doing radio? Do you know how I got to Capital City? Because every day I had to step behind the mic and show up. And there was one day that I decided to show up as my authentic self, believe it or not. I decided to take the mask off. I'd seen a story in the news of this girl who was getting absolutely slammed around her body confidence and her body image. And she was on there with her bra and undies and people were telling her she was fat and disgusting and all these things. And for me, the person who was on radio as that funny fat girl, that's how I always referred to myself, I thought, this girl's got fucking confidence. She doesn't care what people think. And every day I care. I get on this microphone and I care. And so I took my mask off. And why I want to share this with you is because maybe you haven't PR'd yourself yet. Maybe you're just starting. Maybe you're a pro like Jules and I now. But for those who are just starting, and for those who are a pro actually as well, I want you to think about what you're putting out there and what you're sharing with the world. And I want to share with you Heidi 14 years ago and what actually led to my very first piece of media from me taking off the mask. So let me know if you can hear it.
Looking at the photo of Stella, I personally think what a champ. How courageous she is putting herself out there, bearing bits of skin that I would never let my friends see, let alone the world. She's put it all on the table and gone, love me or leave me. And you know what? I really wish that I had her strength. I wish that I could be her. I wish I could stand in front of you and say, up yours, to the guy on Facebook who told me that I had more chins than a Chinese phone book. Stuff you to the guy who has stood before me and told me that I'd probably get a boyfriend if I lost some weight. You think that because I'm in this job that I'm confident with myself? You think that because I put myself out there every single day, and I'm tearing up right now, I'm not as confident as what you think I am? And I wish that I could sit here and tell you that I love myself because that's what people expect me to say. But I can't. I absolutely hate my body. And every day I get up and I battle to look in the mirror. I measure myself a few times a week and I can't look in the mirror without feeling hate towards myself. I want to stop it, but I don't know how. I've hated my body my entire life and I've battled it my entire life. Sometimes I won't leave the house because of what I see, and I'll try on 20 or so outfits because I can't decide what to wear because I hate myself when I look in the mirror. I've only just started wearing at 28 my arms out, and it's taken me this long to accept that that's the way that I look. Every single time I look in the mirror, I really do struggle. And every single person that I see and put myself next to, I compare myself to. At the age of 14, I struggled with an eating disorder and I've battled my weight my whole life, like I said. I've probably, and you'll notice this, cover up my taunts and my fears with a loud and outgoing personality. And today I stand before you telling you that I'm willing to try and love myself, to try and happy and be in my own skin and to be the role model that people think that I am. I want to be a healthy and fit 28-year-old who doesn't beat myself up for my shape. So today it starts right now and it starts here. I want Stella's strength and courage to love myself inside and out.
Ready to go?
Wow.
So that for me just completely changed my whole entire life, but also gave me this confidence to start putting myself out there even more, actually, because I realized the power of connection from that moment that I spoke out about my truth. And so many people, I think, are so worried about putting themselves out there because we're worried about judgment. We're worried about what people think. Do you know, in that moment when I shared that on breakfast radio in Western Australia, our phone lines rang for 2 weeks straight with people just wanting to share their story. And I realized I wasn't alone, which made other people realize, you know, that they'd seen themselves in me and they weren't alone. And it actually taught me obviously so much about life and put me on the trajectory that I went on with, like writing my book and, you know, all the body image movements that I've started and the shit show live stories. But I realized that people wanted to share these stories online because other people want to see themselves. You know, they want to relate. They want to know that they're not alone. And so I wanted to share that with you because some of us, we're so afraid to step into sharing our stories and our truth. And that is your permission slip for you to start sharing and, you know, take off your mask today. Because like I said, the trajectory that it's put me on is, you know, and it started with a girl in a radio studio telling her story and then all the different stories that went viral around. Mia Friedman picked it up. She put it on her radio show. And, you know, everyone, all the messages that I just kept getting were from different people wanting to, you know, to share their story. And so I always like to think when I'm sharing parts of me that might be a bit scary, that the conversation is bigger than you. And that's what I always think. Oh, the conversation's bigger than me. The conversation's bigger than me. The conversation's bigger than that person. You know, if you want to change the world, which you guys said that you did, we've got to think about, you know, what could we share where other people could relate? So that then led to, you know, who I am today, all my media experience. This is my street cred. So I always, when I'm pitching myself and putting myself out there, will start with the story, you know, like that story that I just shared with you then, the girl on breakfast radio who hated herself. And then this is who she is now. This is her street cred. Don't forget to fucking share your street cred. Again, a thing that so many of us are so scared to do. Like I was a Big Brother housemate, kicked out day 43. I'm an author. I'm a leader of a viral movement. You know, I worked in an agency in London. I've got PR and media degree. I've got a comms degree. I've got a radio diploma. These are the things that you want to share. Oh, also got to interview Ellen DeGeneres, got the only interview in the country. So these are the things that I want you to share. So when you're starting to think about putting that pitch together, think about the impactful story or the moment, like I hated myself on breakfast radio, right? Then the next thing is like my accolades. So what you'll probably see when I teach is I'm teaching very much in like how I want you to kind of start thinking about formatting it. I also want to share some fun facts with you. I do believe in aliens. I do talk to spirit guides. I usually do a toilet breathe session and I call in my angels and my spirit guides. And the reason why I share these fun facts, as Jules will know, these are the things that the media fucking love. Now, they're not going to go write a story about how Heidi Anderson believes in aliens. However, these are the things that people can start to relate with, to start to play with. They love those like out of the box kind of things. Another fun fact is my mum and dad told me that I could actually sing and dance. And then I got my tonsils and adenoids out. And I realized like, oh my God, I can't sing. And what I realized is I could never actually sing, but they told me that it was from my adenoids and my tonsils, which I love telling that story as well, because these are parts of the story that you can start to share. So I just want you to start thinking before we get into actually putting our pictures together. Imagine that this could be you. Imagine if you had a story that could actually, who's got their, I can't actually mute that person. It's Brenda, isn't it? Brenda's just joined. She's come on with her bloody mic. Brenda, hello.
All right, I'll do it.
Thank
you.
It's so funny because, like I said, my screen gets locked when I'm in this mode. Okay, so imagine that this could be you. So I want you to just look here for a second. If you get it, Jules, I get distracted, the ADD brain. So my client Aston, right? And this is where I want you to start thinking about the things that you do, the philosophy that you have to say, the thought leadership that you want to share with the world. It could be really like actually the real simple stuff that could actually really hit it off online. So one of my clients, Aston, I was rolling through her Instagram and she had this coffee hack on there, which was the 5-minute coffee hack that saved her from divorce. So her and her husband, after kids, like most of us, if you haven't divorced, you're probably hanging on by a thread or got some relationship coaching or counseling, which is me. After kids, it's just like, oh my God, it's so hard. So they created, instead of getting divorced, they created a ritual where they check in and have a coffee together every single morning and they talk about the shit that's going on with themselves. And that's actually brought them together. They're now both relationship coaching together, actually. And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, that's the real simple shit that people need in their life, right? The real simple hacks. Think about this in your business for a second, or your mission or your brand, whatever you're doing, your thought leadership. Are there any really simple things that other humans could do that you probably are like, that's so simple, like no one will give a shit about that? Because that's the stuff that people could actually make a change today. So this went viral. I'm talking like, just in New York Post, like nearly 150 million visits, like for this story, like overnight, this story went around the world. Because why? There was that part of vulnerability in it that her and her husband nearly got divorced because, you know, having kids, we all know why. So that relatability straight away, that openness, that vulnerability that she had. Then the second thing was that really easy, simple hack that we could all do to save our marriage, not go to like years of therapy to try and save ourselves, but this really simple thing that everyone could do for 5 minutes a day. This is why this story went viral. And the thing is, most of you are probably sitting on really simple hacks or really simple philosophy, but we get caught up in like, you know, all the big details and trying to share all these big things and too much information, which I think Jules and I have spoke about before. And look, guys, that's my problem sometimes. I try and share too much. But I really want you to start thinking, because with Aston, we had this fucking epic conversation around the world that led back to her mission. So let's get into working on your stuff. Okay, with all of that and your brain and your cogs turning, I want you to just think for 1 second, where is it that you want to pitch yourself today? And drop it in the chat box. I want you to think like, is it that you want to write for Mamma Mia? Is it that you want to, is it that you want to have an article in That's Life? Is it that you want to be on the Today Show? Is it that you just want to align with a podcast? Is it that you want to collaborate with someone in this room? Like, where is it that you want to pitch yourself? Katrina, Today Show, amazing. So when you're on the Today Show, let's go with your example for a second. When you're on the Today Show, what is it that you want to be remembered for? So when, people are connecting to the Today Show, what do you want to be remembered for? And Katrina, you can unmute yourself if you like. Again, my arrow's not working. So I'm just sitting here blind. I'm just pressing my my thing.
You should be the co-host, so you should be able to
No,
do.
it's a fault with Zoom, Jules. So when you do,
cool.
I have it all the time with when I do the presentation slides. So it's
Sure. Well, if you want me to do anything, just yell out.
If you want to unmute our first person who said the Today Show, that would be amazing.
Sure.
If she's ready to go.
And that was, who was that? Katrina Worm.
Katrina.
You are unmuted, Katrina. Say something.
I'm unmuted. I unmuted myself.
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay, Katrina, you legend. What do you want to be remembered for?
I want mothers to stop being selfish and doing everything for their kids for love.
Okay. So what is it like? What's your philosophy? So thinking about so if we're tuning into the Today Show, right? And you're sitting there and you're getting interviewed by Carl and Alison, I think it is. No, it's not Alison anymore, is it? It's another girl. God, I can't remember. But just imagine that you're there. What is it that you want to share with the world? Like, what is your philosophy?
I love my child too much to pick up their toys.
Okay, that's good. And so what's a hack that you could teach mothers? So if mothers are being selfish, if mothers are cleaning up after their kids all the time and not looking after themselves, what is a hack that you could teach mothers today?
First thing I would say to them is teach your kids how to use the washing machine.
Yeah, great.
At what age? When do we start?
4?
At prep, so 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so me as a mother, I'm going to give you an example, and this is how I want you to start thinking. So I think my son's just turned 5, and I've only just started thinking about how much I do for him, and that I think it's probably a sense of control that I've had with him. So for me, my son's just turned 5. What are 5 things that I could do with my son today that is going to make him a better person and me not a selfish mum?
So first thing I teach my clients about is your children should be making their own lunches, organising their own school uniforms, doing their own washing and their own cleaning, and they can start it as soon as they leave kindergarten.
Okay, so this is good. Let's go into this one because I think this is where you could do something for, if it's not the Today Show, but I want you to think about this. So a lot of mothers like me, right? My son is low in iron. He only chooses certain foods to eat. He would eat Oreos, rice bubbles, all that kind of shit for breakfast. So if he is starting to make his own lunch at 5, as a mother, how do I relinquish that control and give that to him? Because that's the relatable stuff that mums like us, the reason why we're taking control, right? Is because we're trying to keep our kids healthy and balanced, and which I'm sure you've heard this before, but I would love to know, what is it that you could say to me that I think would be relatable for a lot of other mums out there to, if we're going to give them control of the lunchbox, what do we need to know?
So it's called Sunday Setup. So literally you work together on a Sunday afternoon into a Sunday evening, and you lay out all the different items for lunch for the week. And there's a choice of 2 things each day. So they get to choose which sandwich they want, which piece of fruit they want, which snack they want. It's all in different tubs. So tubs in your freezer, tubs in your fridge, and tubs in your pantry.
Oh, see the hacks. Okay, so my question for you, Katrina, already in my brain as a mum of a 5-year-old, I'm where can I see this? Where can I learn more? So how much do you share on your Instagram pages, and have you PR'd any of this before?
Don't share on Instagram, haven't PR'd it, but do have videos on the website.
Okay. So most people, like most mums, like me, I'm a new age mum. I'm 40. Fuck yeah. You wouldn't think so, would you?
Not at
But
all.
anyway, I'm on Instagram and I'm looking for hacks constantly to reshare with my husband. Like I want you to go look at so this is going to sound strange, but she's a psychologist, the holistic psychologist. She's got 7 million followers. How she shares just really simple, easy relationship and life, understandings of ourselves, just in real simple swipe at tiles. And I share those with my husband constantly. That's what keeps our relationship alive without those things. So if you've got these hacks, if I'm pitching you to the Today Show, they want to be able to see those not just on your website, they want to see those on Instagram. So for you, right, if we're thinking about pitching you to the Today Show, they want to see that what you've got is happening on TikTok, what you've got is happening on Instagram. So I'll just choose one of those places. And I feel like I said, for me, straight away, I'm like, fuck, this girl's just already given me 10 ideas from just our short conversation. I would want to, like, we could read that in Kids Spot. We could read that in Nine Honey, which then could actually then get you on the Today Show. However, you want to probably have a bit of a presence. The other person that I was going to say I'd love you to follow is the Food Platter Mum. And she started off just probably like you, started off sharing some stuff that she was doing at home with the kids. And now she's got, I think, like nearly 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. And she gets PR and media coverage all the time that she doesn't even need to pay a PR agent for. She does it all herself because of the online presence that she has. So my question for you, it was Katrina, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How does that feel for you today to start sharing some of that stuff on a place where you could start to build traction with shareability for people like me?
Yeah, easy. I already have 2 Insta accounts that are underused, so I can do that. What was the name of the site that you mentioned?
Send me a message and I'll send you a couple of examples so then you can get it. But it was the holistic psychologist. It's just the way, it's like I said, she's got nothing to do with the food, but the way that she shares her content is really fucking simple and really relatable. And straight away people are like sharing it. Do you know what I mean? If you go to her insights, like the shares and everything, which one thing that, if you are doing your own PR, what you'll see is the stuff on your Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, you'll start to recognize what are the things that people are really engaging with, what are the things they're sharing with. They are the potential things that you can start to PR. Okay. So yeah, Katrina, I think there's so much in there for you. Like me straight away as a mum of a 5-year-old, I want to know like what's the age appropriate things of me starting to help him, like become a more independent, resilient kid, also with me not just doing everything for him. So straight away, send me a message and I want to start looking at your stuff. But yeah, that would be a great place for you to start. Let me know how that feels.
Yep, great. Thank you.
Woo! All right. Okay. So did everyone get something out of that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, fab. All right. So oh wait, I missed a step. Okay, so we kind of spoke about that. What game-changing hacks or advice do you have? So we went into that. So that was number 1 and 2. Action number 3. Remember the story that I shared about myself, hating myself on radio? I want you to start thinking about what are some of your relatable stories or your vulnerable shares. So from one of my clients, Donna, she got sober when she was 21, but decades afterwards, she was dependent on something else. So that was like a really juicy kind of headline for Mamma Mia. The other one was one of my girls, Mel, who actually spoke on the Shit Show Live Stories stage. Mel actually has no limbs. She lost her arms and her legs from meningococcal when she was working in childcare. And she came down to do a nude swim with me and one of my groups, Shed Your Shit, which, shed your shit, take your clothes off, on the beach. And because she had no arms or legs, she was like, oh, to stand up with everyone to get this photo, I am actually going to put my legs on. And I was like, fuck no, let's all get down on your level and let's stand on your, let's all be on your level. And she was like, those words literally changed my life. And when I was talking to her about, she did my PR course and, the stage, I was like, well, that could actually be a story that we could run with Nine Honey, like her personal story. And so that's quite a vulnerable share, right? Like we got nude on the beach. She had to put her arms and her legs back on so that she could feel like she could fit in. And instead we turned it around and we're like, no, let's fit in with you. So it might be these moments that, again, you think are insignificant or, you go, oh, why would people care about that? Which is what I hear, and Jules would know. We hear this a lot. Like, my story's not newsworthy. Like, why would people care? There are so many moments that, journalists are looking for. So does anyone want to brainstorm a relatable share or a vulnerable share right now that they think could like tie in with their hack or their game-changing advice? Elizabeth, yes, unmute yourself. Let's
Yes,
go.
go, Elizabeth.
Okay, so your sharing is so lovely and relevant for me because I'm actually a relationship coach.
And
and my special passion is arguments and conflict. So that 5-minute hack, I just knew all the theory behind that. I went, oh yeah, that so makes sense, that 5-minute coffee. But I also live with some disabilities. So for about 12 years, I've been living with spinal cord damage from a tumor. What do you call it? I'm incomplete. I'm an incomplete quadriplegic. So didn't quite meet.
So not incomplete, but I love that.
That's a lovely term. So I have no balance, and my sort of byline is, I look like I'm drunk when I'm sober. And my whole goal in life is to look like I'm sober when I'm drunk, which I'm not going to achieve. So, yeah. And my biggest conflict is with gravity. So, yeah.
But see, just that in itself, like straight away, I can see like a headline of I look like I'm drunk when I'm sober.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many people actually probably judge you because of that? I hate to say this, but like, Peter Hook, she's an awesome disability advocate. She's one of my clients. I've actually got a part of her story coming up, but she got drunk on her podcast, had 2 drinks. She's got cerebral palsy. She's in a wheelchair. She got drunk on her podcast to actually show what it was like, the difference between her being drunk and sober. And she recorded a little bit before and a little bit afterwards. And then that was actually the episode that she PR'd when, we were working together. And she got a double-page spread. She had these amazing photos to go with it of her in her, in her wheelchair. And like she did the walk of no shame, but she obviously wheeled herself in Melbourne with me, and we got down into our bra and undies. But that was so interesting, right? Like when we pitched that, it was like, yeah, well, what does she sound like? And so that could be a way too. Like, is there anything else that you've shared on your Instagram or on a podcast?
Well, I've just started developing this thing about resilience being about loving your scars and accepting the problems that you experience as like perfect problems rather than resenting them. That in the middle of trauma, there's always a hidden jewel. There's something really remarkable that lifts you up that you can share with other people. That we have to really practice the art of sadness. Like there's some really difficult emotions out there that we all avoid, but like there's so much richness in just giving yourself time for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a talk around that I've just started, and I actually don't want my disability to be up front. But obviously it's not the first thing people see, but becomes bloody obvious bloody quickly.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Like, that's the thing. You could choose to PR part of your disability to raise more awareness around conversations and kind of, what we spoke about, like the judgment and drunkenness. Like I was on a TV show with SBS, What Does Australia Really Think About Obesity? And they had the one as well. I don't know if you saw it. What does Australia really think about disability? And how people are still so judgmental, and they actually secretly filmed people, and like it was pretty wild. But what I kind of thought for that is like that could just be its own essence in, that could be a part of your story that you want to share and you want to talk about. Like you would be a great guest on Peter's podcast. Like I'd love to do an introduction if you want to do that. Just send me a message and I'll introduce you, because her podcast is called, oh shit, had a memory blank.
Stand.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Was that Naomi that said that?
Lisa. Hello.
Yeah. Thank you. Because, so the I Can't Stand podcast is so brilliant. So, you'd be a great guest on that. And that could be where you choose to share that part of you. Maybe there's a story in the fact that you don't want to lead with your disability. However, you have to, because of the awareness that you need to raise within Australia around these conversations. And still, people don't believe, like they just don't. Even working with Peter, just the time that I take to do something, the time that would take her, like I never really thought about stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Because I just am like, let's do this, girl. And then like, when we walked the walk of no shame, like how the time and effort that it takes for her, she couldn't go to the toilet anywhere, like all of these things. So you could really paint the picture with that part of you, but also the stuff around your relationship and arguments is so huge and so important in parenting and lifestyle. One of the things that I wrote down for you was Inside Out 2 just came out, right? And so many entertainment reporters, people that are like reviewing the movies, they want different angles. So imagine if you wrote an article for Mamma Mia just even about sadness. So sadness is my son's favorite character, like because she just drops down and like all the time. And I'm like, isn't she so sweet? And so we sit there and we talk about the emotions. Like I took him to see Inside Out 2. However, it was probably really made for our husbands, really, wasn't it? That movie, not just for the women to drag their husbands, not really to drag our 5-year-old kids.
Oh, that is so true.
But that's how you could start thinking.
I'd love to save all the men and get them just, you know.
But maybe that could be something.
I need to find actually, it would be great to talk with a really good male podcaster about how women can lead relationships. That's actually something I'm quite passionate about. Like, I think our super skill is that we understand relationships, we can lead relationships, and we should be taking that authority in the world. And so we shouldn't, and that gives us a chance to then, rather than criticize our men, just set the standard and then do those things that accept them, give them the challenge, but also help them learn. Not rescue them anymore, not like treat them like teenagers or children. Just help them learn, but understand that and if we're going to lead, then we have to learn how to do it well ourselves. But I think we should step up into that stuff. You know, we're raising kids. We've got fantastic relationships with our friends. Like, it is our super skill, and it's not a soft skill. It's tough work.
Yeah. So my question for you is, how much do you share of this, the real simplicity that it could be for a 40-year-old woman, right? And I'm only using my example because, I just think about myself for a sec. Like me and my husband nearly broke up after having a kid. Like, honestly, truthfully,
that's
most of my friends are fucking divorced. Like, truthfully. And do you know what saved our marriage? Speaking on our podcast about our issues, because we had a safe space. And so that's what brought us back together. That's what connected us. Whereas most people don't have that safe space, right? So they just go straight into arguments and defense all the time. People think we're mad because we spoke about the most personal stuff. However, it saved our marriage. And so how can you start creating safe space for these women and men, like real simple stuff, like that they could share, that they could start sharing on their Instagram, that they could start sharing with their partners. And then from that, like the real simplicity, like that coffee hack, like for you, it could be like you still have an opportunity. Inside Out 2 is going to be on our, Netflix or whatever soon. Like if it's not still on at the movies, there could be an opportunity for you to jump on podcasts with that men run around mental health conversations and be like, this is how, guys, this is why you need to go see this movie. Or you could recap it with the 5 ways, or even just the simple like sadness technique that you talk about, and we talk about the character sadness. Like that could be you could do content for the next fucking 6 weeks, pitch yourself a podcast, but also just create content for your Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever. But again, the women you're probably speaking to are, probably a lot of them are on Instagram, like, in that 40, like we've got kids, or, we're having these big conversations, because most of my friends, if I'm telling you the truth, they don't want to be with their husbands. They're fucking such hard work and they've evolved. And so it's like, well, how can we evolve but bring our partners with us without, like you said, lead it in a really healthy way? So I think there's a bit there for you. Let me know how that lands.
So I love it.
Yeah.
There's lots of ideas there. Yeah.
Awesome. If you need any help, just send me a message on Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time, team. Okay. I'd love to say it's LinkedIn. Jules will whack me over the hand for that. But I am so bad at LinkedIn, and eventually I'm going to
get onto it. You've got to get onto it.
I know. It's just creating the space. When you find a platform and it works, that's where I'm just spending my time at the moment, and then building my email list. So, I would, if you can, send me a message and let me know, like, if Heidi, what does this look like? Would this be something you share? Just shoot me a message. But I think there's a lot there for you to really change the world and save relationships.
I just want to create more love, more peace. That's after that, more smiles.
Yeah.
And while I'm there, find myself a good looking, caring man for me, because I'm single.
Get on those podcasts with the males, the conscious males. You'll get there. I love that. And you
Thanks,
know,
Dale.
yeah, keep me posted because I think it's so important. I love this. Okay. How does everyone feel? We're going to go to the next action step. One of the things I want you to think for, like, if we're putting together these pictures is, how does this tie into your business and mission and brand and what you do, which is what some people get. You know, I was literally just brainstorming with a client before I jumped on this call. So she's going through a fertility journey, but she's created this mind school because most teachers, you know, are burnt out, etc. So she's created her own school to teach coaches and all these kind of things. And she was like, but how does the fertility journey kind of like fit into like my business, my brand, and my mission? And her whole thing is emotional intelligence. And if we taught more emotional intelligence in school, teachers wouldn't be burnt out. We probably wouldn't have to hire people, you know, just like our last lady, you know, because we were teaching emotional intelligence. And I said to her, well, with fertility, right? What are the conversations that most of us don't have, or we put someone off, or, you know, we offend someone because we're not emotionally intelligent. And so that's kind of how we've been bringing it back into her business and her mission. So with Claire, she's an international DJ. You know, with her business and mission, we just found this story, and I wanted to share this with you because it was an oh my God, what the fuck story. So how many of us have those stories? Like, oh my God, what the fuck? Or like you've got a client story that's like, oh my God, what the fuck? So she almost got scammed buying tickets to Taylor Swift. And she didn't in the end because she posted on Instagram. And then someone reached out to her and said, well, would you come and play for Taylor Swift not for Taylor Swift, but at Taylor Swift's concert in a, you know, in a VIP suite. And she was like, shit, is this another scam? It wasn't. They flew her family out. And so that was the story that the media ran here in Perth, because it was like, oh my God, what the fuck? She got to play at Taylor Swift's concert, but before that, she nearly got scammed. So there was that relatability. So all of that brings back to her mission, right? Her mission is music. Her mission is DJing. Her mission is making people feel good through, you know, building confidence through music. So that was how we brought it back. So there's all these, oh my God, what the fuck stories that people have as well. So any of you thinking they're going, I think I've got one that you'd like to brainstorm now that we can bring, you know, back into your mission. I'm just going to check the time. Okay, we're good. Anyone got one that they're thinking like, oh, I could share this? Or Jules, have you know any of these guys that have got what the fuck stories?
Oh, I'm sure they've got loads of them. Hang on, let me just get everybody's up and well, I mean, Brenda's got one, and you know Brenda.
Yes. Brenda, you want to unmute?
We know Brenda's amazing story. Kerry's got one. Alison, I'm sure, has one. Lisa Cox definitely does. Ildy has one. You know, everyone's got amazing stories. But anyway, who wants to put up their hand to talk
I was going to say
about theirs?
I was going to say choose someone else because I get to do a bit of work with you already, Heidi.
Oh, you're
what about
so
Lisa?
cute.
Well, no, Lisa. Kerry Bolton would be a great one because Kerry hasn't done much PR. She runs Caring Lotus and has which is an NDIS support business with gazillions of employees. She's a huge success, and she's all about connection and community. Have you got a little story that you could think of, Kerry, that you can then tie in? I'm going to hand it back to Heidi to talk to you.
So many. Where to start?
What's one that you're like, how would I tie this back in? Like, oh my God, what the fuck? Or like, you know, that story that you share with someone and people go, holy shit balls. Like, and then you think, how could I PR that? Like, let's dive into one of those. Have you got one?
Yeah, definitely domestic violence. Definitely. I was in California for 10 years. I was in a safe house for a while there. Had to fight laws to get to be in America, and then had to fight laws to come back out of America. So, a lot there.
Okay. And then can you just tell me your business in a couple of sentences and your mission?
So the business is a disability support agency. We're here to change lives and make difference through connection, support and tools.
Mm-hmm. And so when you say those two things together, do you think that they could be related?
Yeah, definitely. It's all about connection and support and tools. Yeah.
Yeah. So 100%. I think part of your story, one of the things, and I'll just use an example of one of my clients, because I am, you know, very lucky in that I've not had to live through a domestic violence, you know, relationship or situation. However, I've helped a lot of friends, and one of my clients recently, she shared her story through reactive PR. So I don't know if you've ever thought of that. So, you know, the Blake Lively movie that just came out that everyone was talking about, and then they tried to cancel Blake Lively. She actually came out, and so Blake Lively came out. And just to give context to everyone, she didn't really talk about the domestic violence part of this new movie. It Ends With Us. And she just kind of focused on like promoting herself and everything. And she got absolutely fucking slammed by people all around the world. Like they pretty much wanted to cancel her everywhere. And one of my clients who's lived a DV relationship, she's on a mission to share her story, to share, you know, to create impact for others to see themselves in stories like It Ends With Us. And she was like, it's actually Blake Lively's not the problem. And she was the first person that came out and spoke about it. And so she used that as an opportunity to step into her and thought leadership. And on Mamma Mia, she ended up getting Body and Soul, Mamma Mia, a couple of podcasts out of it, because she then now created her own, which maybe I could connect you with her too, Kat Dunn. She's created her own storytelling night of speakers with life after leaving. And yeah, so I could definitely introduce you to her, but that was a way that we used her story. So it wasn't necessarily her writing a whole article on it or pitching herself for a podcast. She stepped in and she actually stuck up for Blake Lively, and the feedback from people saying, thank you, because she actually got out of her domestic violence relationship by going and she started a coaching program. I think she went to a coaching program and she saw herself in some of the examples and everything that they were using. And she was like, fuck, I'm in a DV relationship and I didn't even know. And she said, so all these people, they're canceling Blake Lively when all these women could be going, and men included, I guess, like could be going to this movie and going like, fuck, that's me in that movie. So she actually brought in this whole new spin of it, and it was so powerful. And so maybe that's something for you to think about as well. And, you know, what conversations are happening, especially in our country right now. It's, you know, the number of women that are being killed at the moment is absolutely fucking horrific. You know, it's a pandemic. Is it an epidemic or a pandemic? What do you say? Yeah.
I'd say both.
Both, yeah. I was like, yeah. So, you know, journalists are constantly looking for different ways to speak about this story right now. So for you to bring in a new perspective of your story and maybe some of your thoughts around conversations that are happening, it could just be a great way for you to just build your thought leadership. And the way that we brought it back to her business is she's an online business manager. Again, it was those conversations around, like when I spoke about Jessie before, how can you create that bigger impact? And so for her, it was like, well, I want to share this story, you know, from the stage. And so she actually won to speak at Shit Show Live Stories, but she's creating her own. When we were speaking, I said, well, you're organized, right? You can get shit done for most people because she's an online business manager. I said, why don't you collect and create like a handout for people so that they could just really come and find, like, you know, a simple handout of a domestic violence, all these contact numbers and things that they could do and listen to themselves, kind of like a checklist. And she was like, oh my God, I never even thought of that, because I know, you know, sometimes when you're going through it, it's really hard to find that the internet feels like a really overwhelming place and you don't know where to start. So one way that we started to bring that into her business as well, and then her starting her own events. So yeah.
It's funny, I've actually done that for my company. I've got a 2-page of all the national helplines because they're everywhere, like not just domestic violence, but helplines for, you know, gambling and Aboriginal, like all different sorts of things, because they're sort of everywhere all over the internet. So I actually sat there one day going through all of these. You know, you go to Beyond Blue and there's only 3 other helplines on there, so I put them on there and then I'd go to theirs, and it was just kept going and going. So I give that to my clients and staff for support.
Oh, see, that's awesome. And, you know, that could be something that you share on your stories. That could be something you share on your page. And it's like just remembering why you're doing that and how that connects to, you know, to what you do. Because like the thing is, like I said, I went through some personal stuff last year with something that happened to our son, and there was fuck all information on the internet. And I was like, I just needed to be seen. I just needed to get like a contact number and all this stuff. And there was barely anything out there. So, you know, you're making that easier for, you know, women and men as well, but mainly women who go through what they've gone through. So, yeah, I really think that's super powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so time check 105. Okay, so I'll recap. I'll start to recap it for you a little bit. So I like to think of it like if we pitch like Kris Jenner and create water cooler talkability. So, like when you're working in corporate, maybe some of you still do, like everyone hangs around the water cooler. They probably do it more around the coffee machine now. But it's like that. What your mission is to create water cooler talkability. So when I was talking about those shareable things on Instagram, that's kind of like the water cooler these days. So when you start to think about like, okay, my mission is to build relationships, to connect, and to create water cooler talkability, the water cooler talkability is where you start to get the impact because it's that shareable stuff.
Yeah.
So think like a Kardashian, whether you like them or not, they create fucking noise. They make you watch the show. Well, they make me do anyway. They think outside the box. They already have publicity running way before their episodes come out with conversations that people are starting to have around them. So start to think like that. I want you to be memorable as fuck. Like I want you to be unforgettable when you're pitching yourself and putting yourself out there. So I won't go too much into this, but think about like, so many of us, because I've given you so much today, so many of us have stuff already on our LinkedIn. So many of us have stuff in our emails. We have, Instagram. What are the things that you could leverage from your stuff today that you could stalk out now on your Instagram page, email, whatever, that you could go like, fuck, actually, I've got a podcast and the most downloaded episode is this. Because if you then went and transcribed that podcast and used the headline of what you actually, used in that podcast, there's a pitch right there. That's the hook. Because most people probably press play on that episode because of the headline. Yeah. So that's your headline for the pitch. Then you transcribe it. This is what I would do. ChatGPT is my new best friend, everyone. I've been training my chat like with all of my branding, with all of my pictures and everything. So this is what I would do. I would grab the podcast. Like, so today I could literally download this, put it through ChatGPT and turn it into a pitch. So who's got a podcast? Does anyone have a podcast here that we could just workshop this? Okay. Again, I can't see. Yes. I can't see you. Yep.
Jess.
Unmute yourself. Jess. Sorry, Jess. Like I said, my thing's frozen.
Hello.
So, hello. What's your podcast?
It's called Ignite, and it is a podcast that shares stories, the stories of the woman behind the business.
Ooh,
and then there's also solo episodes, which are my brain dumps, really.
Love it. Love a good brain dump. So tell me, what's the most downloaded episode? Do you know?
Yes. I don't know the name of it, but it was with Annalise McCarthy.
Okay. Annalise McCarthy. So her speaking coach.
Yes.
Amazing. So this is what I want you, this is your homework. I want you to go to that episode and I want you to download the episode onto your computer. There's a program called Descript I use. You can actually transcribe the audio from that episode. I want you to then look at the actual name of the podcast that you called it. And then I want you to also look at the context that you added to like describe what the podcast was about. I'm probably assuming, just because I know Annalise and, is it probably like it would have featured her story. It probably talks about like speaking with confidence, which is why a lot of people tend to not share, and the number one fear in the world is public speaking, right? So that's probably why.
So a lot of it was her story. So there was definitely like what she does, but I like to get into more about the personal story, not necessarily just what they do.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of her, like essentially, her shifts in her identity and what she's gone through and how she's made it through and
awesome.
The strength from that.
Okay, so this is what potentially you could do. So I want you to look at that episode with her, look at the headline, and then put it through Descript, and then you could jump over to ChatGPT and you could turn it into like a summary. So for me, I've trained my chat so it knows how to turn it into a pitch, like of how I format my pitches. And so I would then turn that in, and that could potentially be an article. That could potentially be a blog post that you share, right? And it could be about the identity. Most women in their business, right? Like we have we go through our identity crisis. I know I've been through several, leaving breakfast radio, like think of all those relatable things that she shared. And if once you download it on Descript and they get chat to pull out like the summary, what did Annalise say? You'll be able to see the key takeaways. The other thing that I would look at is your brain dumps. So go to which is the most downloaded brain dump episode. And what could you do with that? Could you turn that into something? Say, for example, if it's about identities, could you turn that into a personal piece that you write for Mamma Mia? And again, put it through Descript, pull it out, put it through chat, create a pitch, and then send that off to Mamma Mia on its own. Like you'll obviously need to tweak it. Like they are robots, remember, ChatGPT, AI. So you do want to bring in your own personality, and that's what I'm training mine to do right now. But I think, it's a really simple, easy one for most people. Like, what is the most listened to, like, maybe live that Jules has done on Facebook? Like, what is the number one question that people have asked you? What do they slide into your DMs about? Like, what are those taboo topics around identity shifts or, the people behind the logo? Or another thing that I could think of for you right now is like, through all the people that you've interviewed, is there a common theme that you hear from most of them? Like, what is the common theme that you hear from most of these women? Because that could be a story in itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of the self-belief, it's the confidence, it's the, the imposter syndrome, the identity shifts, all of that.
Yeah, like I sat down with 25 women, and here's the one thing they have in common, like, and it could be like that none of them knew how to speak with confidence. Again, like I'm just making stuff up here, but like none of them knew how to speak with confidence to begin with. So this is a great way of starting to use your stuff. This goes for every single one of you, right? Like whether you've got a podcast or you've with a relationship coach or whatever you do, you use your clients, use those stories to like turn that into your own surveys. Like, as Jules would know, the way that we can make things newsworthy is by giving some stats. And like when I used to write my column for Perth Now, I would literally just interview people on my own Instagram. And I would say out of 100 people that I've spoke to on, I wouldn't say my Instagram, but I said like, out of 100 people I've spoke to, these are the 10 things that they all have in common or whatever it was. That's how you can make your stuff relevant, or for example, with confidence and speaking, right? If you're going to go with the angle of identity shifts and something around Annalise, you could go find those stats around public speaking, and then you could write an article for an online blog or something. Elizabeth,
and also don't forget polls. I was going to say in social media, you can do a poll and then use whatever the answers are to say in a recent survey, 87% of women said that they're lacking in confidence or whatever. And that way you can ask a leading question to give you the answer that you're looking for anyway.
Yes. And as Jules and I know, a lot of these fucking surveys that they like produce these stories on TV, they've like surveyed like less than 1,000 people, less than 100 sometimes, but that's how they start to make things newsworthy, by these stats. But again, some of those stats are really simple to find, like with, so I'll go back to the Aston example just for a second with the relationship hack that went viral. Do you know why? We strategically chose to share that in January because most people divorce in January. I remembered that stat from working in the media and doing stories, when I was working in breakfast radio. Can't even remember why that came up, but that was the stories I were running. So we strategically sent that pitch just before Christmas. So when journos were on holidays, there was a really easy pitch for them, a story that they wrote that then went viral in January and then we added some stats in there of how many people broke up in January. And that was just something that we found on the internet that we referenced. So, there could be something around identity with, like, say, a lot of the people that you speak to, it's like when they start their new business or whatever, like how many of them struggle with their identity. There's probably a stat somewhere that you might be able to find. So that's how you can make it relevant as well.
Thank you so much.
No worries. I can't wait to see. All right. So I'll wrap it up. I'm just going to go through because we've done all that. Those some do's and don'ts. If you want to take a screenshot of that, I'm sure Jules has probably like talked to you about this, but when you're pitching, do have a hooky headline, call them by their name, compliment them on a recent article or podcast, sum up yourself, your offer, sometimes suggest 3 to 4 angles. Like most of the stuff that I do, I'll always suggest a few different angles, but angles are my forte. You know, they're not going to be everyone's forte. Like that's where a lot of people struggle actually. But again, chat GBT could help you and like just get your brain started. Oh, same drink bottle, cute. And then don't CC every contact you can find. Don't forget to follow up. There's so much power in a follow up. And I say most of my things, if I've sent a follow up, I will always get a response, even if it's a no. But because a lot of the time they're busy, overwhelmed inboxes as well, you know? So don't forget a follow up. I usually do two, one week, and then the second week, unless it's like, you know, around breakups at Christmas time and we needed to move quick on that, I would have followed up within 2 days. I won't go into Peter's example. Oh, there we go. So this is the example pitch that we used for Aston, if you want to take a screenshot of that as well. And I think I have maybe a QR code. Oh, actually, I have a handout that you guys can have. At the end, Jules, remind me to drop it in here.
Yeah. Well, you might want to do it, in a second, because we're probably
I'll do it in a sec. Yeah. So I'll drop the handout. So that's just basically, this is again coming back to your mindset. The more pictures we have out there, the closer we are to a yes. Facts are you are going to get rejected. I get rejected every day. And that's the power of that exposure therapy and putting yourself out there. There will be days that you make it mean something about you, but don't forget that first publicist lives in your own head. These are the stories that you're telling yourself. Okay. So that's how you can take control back. What I would love today for you to share any takeaways on your Instagram. If you're feeling like, fuck
or
yeah,
Facebook,
I'm going to.
If you're not on Instagram.
Yeah, Facebook. In Jules's group, tag me wherever you want to do it. But like confidence equals action, right? Like, and the first thing we want to do is step into that courage. So go live, declare where you're going to share today, set up a collab with someone in this room. It says a collar there, record a video to pitch to someone, like, and then declare it on the internet, because that, my friends, is putting it out there. Okay. That's not the one I was going to get for you. So let me just stop sharing. Yay. Well, wait, where'd you guys go? Here we go.
Wow. Okay. Well, I bet everybody's hated this one today. Boring as batshit. Oh my God. No tips.
Was it?
No
it was
information.
So boring. I'm just
great, Heidi.
Oh, thanks, Jules. I'm just going to grab this handout.
Yeah. You grab it.
It's on a Google Doc.
We've probably got time for one more quick question if anyone's got a question for Heidi. Otherwise, if you're in Melbourne, I've posted her event on October the 25th into the chat. And I think we can always ask her to come back if you all want to have a chat with her. And Heidi obviously works with people one-on-one if anybody would like to work with her.
Yeah, so I work one-on-one. I also have a club membership.
And a group,
I've chucked in the chat, just so you all know, it's a Google document. Make a copy of it. So click on it, make a copy of it. And then it's got a pitch template in there. It's got all the things that we worked through today, like a whole bunch of thought starters. It's got every single example you can think of. It goes with my masterclass, but I pretty much did that for you today. So if you want to, really start to do PR. Oh, I love you, Jules, and I can't wait to see you at the shit show. And Brenda's
it's going to be amazing. And Brenda is going to be speaking at it. So if nothing else, we want to go and support Brenda. Heidi, I don't know what to say. You're wonderful. It's been brilliant. I think it goes without saying that everyone's had a brilliant time. I will start sharing the recording. That'll go up on our YouTube channel. And I know there were a few people who wanted to see it as well. So She's the Boss YouTube channel, and I will post it into the Facebook group as well. But Heidi, thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, if you want to come along, send me a message. If you need any feedback, send me a message.
And I noticed that Elizabeth had said, bring it to Adelaide. Some of these women are all over, so they could help you bring it in to Adelaide and whatever. Elizabeth has been great with me with She's the Boss as well. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, remember she's at _Heidi Anderson on Instagram. And it's Heidi at Heidi Anderson, isn't it? Heidi, for your email. Just in case anyone, and she's on holiday at the moment, so don't bombard her.
I am on holiday. So it's it's fucking at.
There's an at in the middle.
Heidi at realheidi.com. if you
Okay,
want to
there
send
you go.
an email.
Don't
Yeah.
spread that around, but if any of you want to go directly to Heidi, have a chat. Otherwise, you're all amazing. Have a wonderful week, and thank you so much, Heidi.
Thanks, Jules. You're the best. Do you want me to stay on, or are we saying bye?
I don't mind. Do you want to chat? We'll have a quick chat afterwards. So goodbye, everyone. You head off.
Bye, everyone. Remove yourselves. No.
Thank you.
See you
Thank you,
again soon.
everyone. Lots of love. Good luck pitching. Yay. Oh, thanks, Jules.
There you go. That was great. And you had some great people in there, and a few of them, I reckon, will be in touch with you. So well done.
Oh, awesome. And like I said, I just want people to win. It was funny. There was a whale that was out there when I was talking, and I was like, distraction.
Oh my
yeah, I know it
God.
was out there, and I'm like, oh, so beautiful. But thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to see you in Melbourne.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. It'll be great. And if you are in Melbourne, let's try and have an hour where we sit down and work out how else we could collab.
Yeah.
Because I reckon you could probably send some people to me for my stuff, and I could send. I'm kind of looking for someone else to do PR pitching. But I want to do much more around LinkedIn and podcasts and things like that. So maybe there's a bit of anyway, we'll talk. Go and enjoy your
let's
holiday.
talk. I love you. Thank you.
And do you want me to send you the raw file for this? Would that be useful or not really? You've already got it.
I've already got it, but just send it anyway, because then I can just keep it on file if I need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go and watch it convert now. Speak to you later. I've got to go and do a podcast interview.
Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.